Hello and welcome back to Added Time, where we express ourselves every week about women's football. We rarely take a holiday. And look, please don't get hung up on these Madonna puns, because soon we'll get into the groove once I introduce my material girls. Go on, strike a pose, Fran Kirby and Bethany England. Hello!
I think we should stop the recording. That's brilliant. That is brilliant.
What a thing that Madonna was at the football game that we were at. We had an Added Time team outing yesterday at the Spurs Chelsea game. We'll get into that experience in just a bit, but let's start with the game that I guess shakes up the table a little bit and brings down that City lead. Arsenal were at the Emirates playing Man City. Man City definitely went into that, obviously the favourites, given that dominant performance over Chelsea last weekend. They were on a 13-win streak. But Arsenal were really impressive in this game.
Yeah, I think, when they started the game and you saw Viv Miedema win the ball back within first kind of 5 seconds and go through and nearly score, you're kind of thinking, oh God, how's this game going to go? But yeah, I think sometimes people, because maybe they don't get the results that they always should, underestimate Arsenal a little bit. Like, Arsenal are one of the best teams in the league. Yes, Man City are doing incredibly well. They have been the best team this season, but we all know how good Arsenal are and how good they are also at the Emirates. So I don't think anyone should have gone into this game thinking that this was going to be an easy win for Manchester City, because it was not going to be the case at all. And Arsenal getting the goal that they did with Olivia Smith in terms of the composure to go around the goalkeeper, a fantastic through ball by Caldente. It shows how deadly they can be. And the chances that they created in the first half, the chances, the defending that they did as well, the blocks that they were making, it looked like a really good, strong, solid performance from Arsenal. And also to not concede against Manchester City is a massive statement in terms of, with the players that they have going forward. It's a huge statement by Arsenal in terms of, no, we can suffer without the ball. We can put our bodies on the line. We can do these kind of things. And we all know that as players about Arsenal. If you're going into a game, you're playing against Arsenal, you know that you're going to suffer and you know that it's not going to be an easy game. So, yeah, I mean, it's a massive statement from Arsenal to get that win. And, yeah, it shakes up things a little bit. But I think, like what we said in previous podcasts, where Manchester City now are, they can afford to drop these points against their competitors. They can afford to drop points against Arsenal. They can afford to drop points against Manchester United. It's the other games now that they have to really step up and keep building them point tally up, because people smell blood. As soon as a team starts losing and goes on this kind of like where their confidence is maybe a little bit dipped, I don't think that will be the case for Manchester City. I still think that they will have that confidence and not worry too much about it. But, the teams that are chasing them, they will smell blood straight away, especially a team like Chelsea. Mm-hmm. It's happened numerous occasions. As soon as they smell a slight bit of blood, they'll go after them.
Man City still got that cushion, but credit to Arsenal, like we say, on a phenomenal performance. Renée Slager's totally got it right tactically. And she said after the match that she told Olivia Smith to play on intuition rather than, stick to a proper rigid plan. And as a forward, Beth, are they just like amazing words to hear?
Yeah, I think as a forward, when you're given, I guess, a bit of freedom and not being restricted to a specific style of play or specific movements, and you allow yourself to express yourselves, that's where most of the time the best goals come in. I mean, look, it was a great ball from Caldente, the way to pass. Obviously, we know Olivia Smith's electric pace to get in behind the centre-back. Obviously, a little bit of muscle and tussle here and there. And like Fran mentioned, then the composure to go round the goalkeeper and slot it in, because some people might try and dink that over the keeper. They might try and hit it first time. They won't have that composure per se to actually think I've got time here, take it round and finish it nicely. I think she brings a different dimension to other players in that Arsenal squad. She's not just fast. Technically, she's showing the different types of goals, and at such a young age, as again we've just mentioned, like the composure element. So it is exciting. I think Renée will be giving her a lot of confidence to be able to express herself in them areas. I mean, look, she's usually played out wide, and she's made her basically a perfect number 9 run. So she's showing her versatility in different parts of the pitch as well. But yeah, it was an unbelievable finish, and I think Arsenal, credit where credit's due, because like Fran said, they defended for their lives. Like, obviously City had chances. You could even argue Caldente was lucky to still be on the pitch after a tackle on Lauren.
100% agree. Really rate Caldente, but I mean, she got away with it.
Yeah, it was very lucky, very, very lucky. If you're City, you're feeling a bit hard done by, because whether that's a free kick on the edge of the box or slightly a penalty, however close you want to look at it, that could have been a game-changing moment. We know City have got personnel to step up in big moments for free kicks or penalties. But I mean, like I said, credit where credit's due, but I do think they had a lucky escape. We're not going down to 10 players.
Yeah, I totally agree. Credit to Caldente for that pass, and she's created the most chances in the WSL this season. But like you say, definitely lucky to be on the pitch. The more you watch it back, there's no attempt to get the ball there, is there?
I just sometimes think what the refs think in them moments.
Here we go.
Because no, no, and I really didn't want to mention the R word again. But look, I think Lauren Hemper's running through on goal. She's going to have a strike on goal. Whether she scores or not, we do not know that outcome. Okay, someone's come through, they've tackled her. If the ref doesn't think she's been fouled, she has to book her for diving, because there's no way that the ref. I honestly cannot see that the ref thinks that she's won the ball, that she's touched the ball. Lauren Hem's touch has taken the ball away. There's no way that Mariona Caldente has touched that ball. So it's either a foul and a red card, or it's a dive and it's a yellow card. None of them happen. Nothing happened. The ref just kind of like runs away, like, oh, okay, like we'll just keep playing. And look, like, I understand with the pace of the game, and sometimes maybe you miss tackles that happen where there's a lot of bodies around it. Maybe you miss a handball, maybe you miss, but that was the only action that the ref should have been looked at. And not just the ref, but the lineswoman as well should have also, she's got a clear view of what's happening. So yeah, I just wonder sometimes, and I also think sometimes when I watch footballers play, like what is going on in their head in certain moments. But it would be interesting. I do think there has to be kind of like an element after the game where like you can ask these questions, because you can't ask in the game because you'll get booked. As soon as you go over and ask a question, you get booked. You can't ask for anything. So I wonder if there's I know that sometimes the clubs put in kind of a statement after or a report after or whatever they do. But I do think there has to be kind of an element where maybe they do in their training, I don't know, where they explain why they didn't give a decision. Because I feel sometimes that's just a question from me. I want to know what they see. So then I know for next time, what do I have to do to get a foul in that situation? Because it doesn't make sense.
Man City rightfully pretty fuming about that decision. But let's focus on their performance. Was a little bit lackluster considering how amazing they've been, in recent games. They're forward players on flames pretty much, but it just felt like things weren't really clicking at all. Or was it more Arsenal's tactics to actually overcrowd players like Bunny Shaw so she couldn't really get on the ball?
I think it was a mixture of both. I think Renee got the tactics right. I think the way Arsenal played, like I said, we admit that they did have to suffer at times, but they put their bodies on the line to suffer, and they made sure that ball didn't go in the back of the net. Obviously, Emirates away is a tough place to go. I think, obviously, you look at the result last week and everyone thinks City are going to absolutely run riot with every team. Well, that's not always the case. Last week might have absolutely knackered them out that much that they didn't have the full guns this week. I'm still watching Kim Little doing the defensive work. She's coming back. She's making unbelievable blocks and tackles in midfield and playing forward, like keeping Miedemar like at bay almost, really. And I think these are moments when you have such big games like Arsenal City and you think, who's going to be the big players to step up in these moments? I thought Kim did a phenomenal job. Like I said, Caldente, bar the tackle, we know what excellence she brought in that game. She really showed up, was creating big chances. And I think City just weren't able to find the answers that they have been previously. And as we've mentioned, they were in a fortunate position where they could afford to drop these points. Like, I agree. I do not think at any point this is going to affect their confidence. They've been on a winning streak for however long. They've had the odd one or two hiccups in the cup run and this game, but they should still be flying with confidence. And sometimes, even at your best, other teams can just outplay you and just outwork you sometimes. And I think that's ultimately what happened. I don't think City played bad. They still created chances. It's just the chances didn't fall to them and they didn't get the luck that they have been getting in previous games. Like, you look at the goals last week where Caroline scores her first goal, it bounces out directly to her and she gets a good shot on goal. But Arsenal are somehow getting a body in front of those shots this week, whereas last week Chelsea couldn't get the bodies in the way. So these are the types of things that just sometimes just don't go your way, even though you're playing well. Like, I don't think they played bad. It's just Olivia Smith took her moment. She was composed. She scored the goal. It just didn't happen at the other end.
So you don't think really this influences the title race at all? Because City have still got a little bit, like, will they even be starting to worry, or is that where this winner's mentality thing really has to come in? You're like, yeah, it's fine. We'll pick ourselves up. We'll go again. And, we'll push ourselves right to the end of the season.
If it happens one more time, I think they'll be stressing a little bit. I think now the cushion is okay. The cushion is good. Like I said earlier, you can drop points to people who are in that title race with you. That is going to probably happen every year, whether it's a draw, whether you lose. You're going to drop because the level is so close. There's not a team this year. I mean, of course, Man City are 9 points clear or whatever they are clear at the moment. You're not looking at them on paper and going, they are here compared to Arsenal down here. They're it's really close. It's not like, there's worlds apart of these teams. It's the teams where you can't drop points against. And I'm talking, down the bottom end of the table, mid-table, the ones where other teams are going to pick up points against. And that's where, if you drop points against a team who's not in that fight, then you're stressing just a little bit. I think if it goes down to 6, then, it's only 2 games. It's only 2 games. And then that's when the stress kind of starts to come in. But I don't think this result will stress them too much. I think it'll be more if it happens again, then you're kind of going, oh my God, look who's behind us. We've got Arsenal behind us. We've got Chelsea behind us. We've got Man United who are creeping up as well behind us. That's when you start to get panicky. And that's when you start to see probably a bit more rushed decision-making in the final third, not making the right decision, not getting the amount of goals that you probably should do in a game. And that's when it starts to creep in and that anxiety creeps in. So right now, I think they'll still be chill. I think they'll still be calm. I think they'll know what they need to do in the next game. It's if it continues to happen, how does that impact kind of the in-house dynamics? But they have a lot of experienced players in there now. They're not a young team that's come through. They have a lot of different cultures, a lot of different personalities who have also experienced probably adversity at international club, at high clubs before. I think they have a good mix now of different kind of cultures, nationalities, that kind of like, if there's one person who's stressed a little bit, they've probably got someone next to them going, that happened to me 5 years ago in X, Y, and Z, we'll be fine. I think they've got different kind of people in the room now that can kind of just keep them together.
Yeah, agreed. Their mentality, it just feels a little bit different this season. So we'll see how things pan out. Okay, Beth, to your side's game now, and the one myself and Fran were watching in the ground. Spurs against Chelsea at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Amazing atmosphere, and not just because we were there, because there was some real excitement because Madonna was in attendance. And before we analyse the game, as the big music fan I am, I have to ask you what it was like meeting her, because she came to say hello to the team, right?
Yeah, after the game, she came in to see the girls, obviously say hello. We had some pictures done, and we got to meet her daughters as well, which is ultimately why she's there. And obviously her daughters are playing with the academy and had a great result the day before. So yeah, it was amazing for not just women's football, but for the club, for her to be able to come show her support and cheer everybody on.
Also, I was really calm, wasn't I, Fran, about the fact that she was sat in our box.
Yeah, I think you played it very, very cool. I think when you first heard that she was there, you kind of had a little bit of your panic. And I think I saw your heart beat a few extra times. But you definitely played it cool. You definitely, I don't think you scared her away. I think Beth will come back to another game. I don't think we did anything that would
do all right. Well, if you did it, my mum was in the box next, so I'm sure she might have scared her away. But apparently I heard as well that a fan, I don't even know about this, but I heard that a fan literally sat and sang her an entire song to her at the stadium.
Honestly, so funny. 2 fans got up and then just absolutely belted Material Girl, like honestly, almost from start to finish. It was so bizarre.
The confidence to even do that to Madonna is wild. But you know what? Props to you, because I could never, but funny.
Right, let's get to the game before I burst out into singing. Spurs had all the chances for a good spell, didn't they? But then Kira Walsh managed to score for Chelsea, totally against the run of play. Then Alyssa Thompson scored early into the second half. And then Chelsea did Chelsea things, managed to grind out a win. But what did you think of your team's performance, Beth?
Well, firstly, you sounded a bit too happy when you were saying that.
Sorry.
But obviously, gutting, because I even looked at the stats after the game, and I don't even know if I believe that in the first half it said we had 39% possession, but it felt like a lot more. I feel like in the first half we were controlling the ball well, we were dominating chances. I'm not saying it was 50-50, but it definitely felt more, or it was just that we were much more clinical with the ball in terms of playing out from the back, getting through the thirds. I felt like we were finding great spaces, opening them up, like getting between units, having some good chances on goal. Again, unfortunately, didn't capitalise on them. And we all know this game, we say it time and time again, that against big teams, you don't get many chances. So when you do get them, you have to make them count. Obviously, I had my one chance that went slightly over the bar. I think we had a few long-range efforts, a header. Second half, a header from memory, 1v1 almost. And like, that could be like 2-3-2. That these moments is what can change the game. And obviously the set piece should never have been a set piece in the first place. Obviously making a mistake and gave away a set piece, knowing how dominant Chelsea can be on set pieces, wasn't ideal. Kira Walsh obviously coming back to haunt us again with another great strike. Can't take that away from her, but it should never have been a set piece from us in the first place. But we equally should have defended it better. And then to give away the second goal so early from second half just absolutely knocked the wind out of us, because I felt super confident going into the second half. I felt like we created some good chances. If we could have gone out into that second half, bringing the same as what we brought in the first half, like I wasn't panicked. But yeah, we just didn't. We kind of, I wouldn't say panicked, but we kind of took our foot off the gas a bit and didn't get our press right. And then from that, I think it was Ellie Carpenter played that one ball into Johanna, and obviously I know Lisa made a great save, but unfortunately Thompson was there for the follow-up, and to be fair to her, it was a good finish because it was on the volley. But yeah, just to concede that early on into the second half really knocked the wind out of us. But again, we created some really big opportunities in the second half that could have made us draw the games. I'm gutted, I'm disappointed, because I felt like that was probably the closest we've been to really giving Chelsea a good run. I know obviously in the away fixture we only lost 1-0, but this game actually felt closer in terms of the chances we created, the style of football we played. We weren't just sat in our half for 90 minutes. We actually took a game to them. But yeah, it's disappointing, but ultimately there's a lot of things we can be proud of to take into the next game.
Yeah, let's look at things from Chelsea's perspective. Even though they won, do we agree with the team selection? Because it was like Lauren James is like a false nine, Nuskin the furthest point forward for quite a lot of attacks. I just felt like they looked quite lost from an attacking side of things in that game.
I think the formation was good. I think putting Alyssa Thompson back on the wing, having Righty Cannerid on the other wing, having that pace is good. I think obviously at the moment they're probably trying to figure out how they're going to solve this 9 situation. Obviously playing Lauren there. She's someone who wants to get on the ball. So if she's not getting the ball, she's going to keep coming lower and lower and lower and lower to get the ball, which means you're not going to have that solid number 9. My question is, why can you not play Sam and Lauren together? That's my question. Because I think Sam is someone that you'll have in the box all the time. You know, when the ball goes out wide, she will be in that box. Whether or not they have the players who are going to deliver them balls, I don't see Alyssa Thompson being someone maybe who'll go down the wing and cross with her left foot. Yo-Yo, Hannah Righty Cannerid also is someone who probably likes to dribble and drive and get inside the box, dribble and beat players. So maybe that's an element that Sonia maybe feels she doesn't quite have in terms of playing Sam in that moment. But we all know that Sam is a goal scorer. And if you've got someone like Lauren who can provide, who can play, as maybe lower down as a 10 player, who... The thing with Lauren as well, like you're not going to get probably the work defensively that you would with a Nuskin. You're not going to get that element of energy in that defensive, but what you will get is the quality when she has the ball. So for me, you have to find a way to make Lauren play, to get her in the team because of what she gives you in terms of on the ball. You could see moments in the game, she has that little bit of spark. Something doesn't always happen at the end of it. Maybe she gets a shot off, maybe she does a cross that's overhit or whatever, but she has that kind of spark that I don't think Chelsea have quite had this season in terms of someone kind of taking hold of the game, getting hold of the ball, protecting the ball. So I think the formation was better, and having 2 solid fullbacks in Ellie Carpenter and the young girl Berman. So
Yeah, yeah.
they've got their setup, and I think that suits them more rather than playing with the wing backs and having kind of Alyssa Thompson inside. So I don't so much mind the formation. It's just the number 9, and obviously now we know Myra is injured again. We don't know how long she's going to be out for. So they have to figure out this number 9 situation that they've got going on. I say that I still believe that Sam has the ability to be a top number 9 in this country, and she's still the club's top goal scorer, even though she hasn't been playing much. But I think for me, where Chelsea looked vulnerable, and don't get me wrong, I do think it was a much improved performance than they did against Manchester City, even though I do agree with Beth in terms of the first half. Spurs definitely had the better of the chances. They definitely exposed Chelsea. They got through a couple of times and ended up as like a 3v2. I think Chelsea's defensive transition is struggling. I think when teams break the press or when they win the ball back in the middle of the pitch, they're straight on the back line. And that's, I think, somewhere that Chelsea need to work on in terms of, and obviously the second half is different because, like Beth said, the momentum of the game just completely switched when Chelsea played. There wasn't that many, even though there were still a couple of moments where the Spurs midfield or forwards would get the ball, they can turn and they're straight away on Chelsea's back line. So I think there's still that element of that defensive transition that I would question a little bit, but I mean, we all know what level of the league is now, so we don't know whether that's Chelsea struggling or other teams kind of improving. So I think there's still question marks, even though I do think it was a better performance. I think the formation was correct. The way that Chelsea played after they scored, they looked much more composed. They looked a lot more that they were confident on the ball. Before that, it was a little bit cagey. Oh God, Tottenham have a little bit of momentum here. What are we going to do? They grinded it out. Like Beth said, if you don't take the opportunities against Chelsea, you know that something's going to happen the other end. I think I turned around to you at one point, Abbie, and I said, this is going to end 2-0 to Chelsea because Tottenham are losing all of these situations. They're not scoring. Kira Walsh on the edge of the box without any pressure, no marking. It's probably not a player that you want to leave on the edge of the box with no pressure. I know Signe tried to get out to her, but she still had time to kind of get that strike away and then scoring so early after the second half. But I felt that the way Tottenham played really nullified Chelsea in terms of, you could see Chelsea, the way that they were setting up to try and press. They were trying to force it to one centre-back. You could see Lauren was standing on the other centre-back. But I felt once Tottenham had kind of got over, the space was with the right-back every single time. She was completely free, got out a couple of times in the first half, but then second half it just kind of didn't happen so much. But yeah, I think it was a good game from both teams in terms of Tottenham did very, very well in the way that they played, the way that they nullified Chelsea's press, the way that they were in the attacking transition. It was just the final moments, the final opportunities, the 1v1 in the second half, the header in the second half, hit the crossbar in the first half. But then you look at Chelsea, they also had some chances to go. I think Righty Cannered had a couple of chances where if she had just shot earlier, maybe it could have ended up in a goal. So yeah, I think both teams had good opportunities to win the game. And I think Chelsea obviously were just more ruthless when they needed to be.
Yeah, closest it's probably been between the two teams for a little while. Millie Bright, though, seemed to really hurt her ankle in a challenge, sort of pushed through to play for a bit longer, but then just had to admit defeat. It looked like she just couldn't put any pressure on it. So Chelsea's injury list, it's looking pretty bad now, okay? So obviously Millie now on that list, Lucy Bronze, Myra Ramirez still in rehab, picked up another knock in that time on her calf. Aggie Beaver-Jones is coming back from an ankle injury. I mean, the list goes on. This is quite worrying, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big injury list. And even in that, you've got 2 big centre-backs as well, which Natalie Bjorn, obviously Keisha Buchanan been out for a while with ACL. And that list kind of never seems to end at the minute. And yeah, it was sad to see with Millie because obviously it was a bad tackle. It was what it was. But then you could see her we all know Millie, she'll try and run through a brick wall, and she tried her best to play. And when Millie goes down, she's hurt because she will put every limb in front of that ball. So, which in fact, I was a bit gutted at because that was our 1v1 moment, which we should have capitalised on because she couldn't run back, she couldn't recover. And if that was a moment to at least scrape a goal back, that was it. But yeah, she obviously went down after that and asked to come off because she couldn't physically do much more to it. But yeah, I think it's posing a lot of questions for Sonia. But again, this is what you have a big squad for, is because injuries are going to happen. And when your biggest players are getting these injuries, this is where you have to manage a squad well enough to know that when other players have to step in and fill them shoes, they're ready to go. And obviously we saw Lexi Potter came in and replaced Kira. I don't know what happened to Kira. Obviously she got subbed at half time. So there is ways about it. It's just how many more injuries can they take alongside still having such big games that they need to win in order to stay in that top 3. That's the biggest concern right now is, okay, we're having injuries, but the squad that we have, although we have depth, are these players going to help us still maintain the wins that we need to stay in that top 3?
Yeah, great squad depth, but it has been hacked into, hasn't it, with these injuries? So many question marks for Sonia, who has a new contract. Well, it's been extended, hasn't it, to 2030. And I'll be honest, I think the timing of this shocked quite a few fans. You know, after a couple of losses, some murmurings in the press about some players being unhappy. What did you make of this news?
Yeah, I mean, look, everyone knows in football that this contract had probably been agreed for a few weeks before, obviously, the back-to-back losses. So I think the timing of it was different because they probably didn't expect to lose back-to-back, regardless on, the calibre of teams that they were playing, because it's Chelsea, because of the history of the club, because of what it's gone on to do. I don't think it's really right that things are obviously been leaking from in-house. I think that sometimes puts a bit of worry for me in terms of what's going on in there, because I always think that when there's a problem in-house, you have to solve it in-house. We've all been in teams where things maybe haven't gone well and things haven't been right, but you have to fix them inside. This is the whole point of having trust in your squad, trust in the players that you have next to you, knowing that your teammates sitting to the right of you has each other's back. These are the moments that, they matter. They matter. And when these kind of things come out, Chelsea's not used to losing. So, of course, people are going to be unhappy about them situations. But, I mean, I think obviously everyone has had questions about Sonia in terms of how they've been playing the last few games, especially against Arsenal, especially against Manchester City. But Sonia is a very experienced manager. She has won many, many trophies. She won however many trophies she won with Chelsea last year. She is someone who knows how to win, regardless on how the performances are happening at the moment. And as I think I've spoken about before, the performances are worrying for me. But if there is a manager in women's football right now who you could go, we need to win something, Sonia is probably one of the ones who's completely up there. And you'd probably say Emma Hayes is another one in terms of, a winning mentality, in terms of their experience, in terms of what they have in their trophy cabinet already. So my question would have been, who else would they have got if they had sacked her, for example? I don't think that would have been the case. I think if she hadn't signed a new deal and things just went worse and worse and worse, then you're probably asking them questions. But who else would you have got in to replace in that moment who has that calibre of trophy cabinet? And yes, okay, there might be some players who are unhappy with the situation at Chelsea. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what they're being coached. We don't know what's happening in meetings. We don't know all of these things. But I still sometimes watch them and think they don't really know who's going, who's staying. Are we showing this? I think there was even some yesterday against Tottenham where they were clearly showing it to the right-hand side, but then they showed it to the right-hand side and then no one jumped. And then Tottenham could literally just play all the way down the right-hand side. It's fine to show one way, but you can't allow them to progress all the way into nearly your box when you're showing them that way. So there's still some question marks there. But my question would have been to the Chelsea fans or to whoever, who would you have got in if you were to lose Sonia? Because we do know that she is a serial winner. She has won many things with Lyon. She's won things with Chelsea. So that would have been my question. But I think giving her a contract extension, it is questionable because she also was under contract, I think, until 2028 anyway. So you could have seen how it would have gone in the next few weeks. But they'd obviously been happy with what she did last season, and rightly so, in terms of what she achieved. And no, we're going to stick by our manager. We're going to give her the summer transfer window because obviously she's complained about this transfer window. We'll give her the summer transfer window, see who's going out, because there's going to be players who are going out. It's going to be a new rebuild. We're going to give her the transfer window that she wants, and then we go from there. So I think the timing of the announcement was weird because they'd gone back-to-back losses. But I do believe that this contract was sorted probably 3, 4, 5 weeks ago and probably signed 5 weeks ago. It's just finding the right moment to announce it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, isn't it, to see how she maybe transforms the team over the next few years. But let's move on to the West Ham Brighton game. West Ham looking to pull away from the bottom of the table. Brighton still trying to get some consistency. I mean, it was looking like the game was done and dusted for Brighton, wasn't it? 2 great goals. But with 10 minutes to go, West Ham turned things round totally and they end up winning 3-2. Your team must be so frustrated, Fran.
Yeah.
And so are you.
Yeah. No, it's probably how Beth felt coming on here when your team is lost. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to talk about, but I think I am going to be how I would be towards the girls after watching the game and watching the goals that we conceded. And to be honest, it's just not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not good enough being 2-0 up and losing the game 3-2. Regardless on who you're playing, regardless on how you're performing. And to be honest, I think we were lucky to be 1-0 up anyway. I think West Ham had some really big chances in the first half where they probably should have punished us. Had more chances in the first half. They had, Shakira Martinez had one where the ball's literally fallen to her and there's no one marking her. And then we go up the other end and score a really, really good goal with Kiko. I think she's been probably one of our most consistent players this year in terms of producing when we've needed it. And then obviously Manuela scoring the goal, and she's got a wonder of a left foot. Like, as soon as she goes through there, you're just thinking she's just going to smash this and it's going to go in. And yeah, I was really, really happy for her. And you could see the joy that she had, that, she is someone who just wears her heart on her sleeve. She does everything you could think of to be at the professional top level. And yeah, I was really, really happy for her. But then it just looked a little bit like we've won. We're 2-0 up against West Ham away from home. We're a little bit more passive, a little bit more. And then obviously, what happened. And, I don't want to talk too much about the goalkeeper Chi, because I think there's been many occasions where she's bailed us out of situations and made some really, really good saves when probably she shouldn't have been. But I mean, we all can sit here and say we know she should do better on the first 2 goals in terms of the cross from Morgan, has to be stronger with her hand. There's a goal from Martinez. She doesn't need to come. Martinez is wide left. She's not going to score. Let the defenders recover back in. We give away a sloppy pass in the midfield where our fullback has tried to play inside to the midfielder. Ball's behind. Midfielder's not ready. Combination of the two. Long ball ends up in a goal. But I think that the last goal for me is more of the concern, I would say, in terms of we obviously couldn't clear our lines, which happens. But when you look at the marking in the box, that's more of a concern to me rather than actually conceding the goal. I think the cross comes in, our centre-back loses her player, so our other centre-back has to come and try and cover. Then we have 3 players all going for one ball. Our fullback doesn't come in, which then leaves their other player completely free, who gets the strike. Chi makes a fantastic save, and then it falls to the West Ham player who had 3 players on her. So, it's unlucky that the ball didn't land somewhere else, but I think we were a victim of our own problems in that situation. And yeah, like it's not good enough to be winning 2-0 and then lose 3-2. I mean, I know it happens and I know that is football, but we also in a position where we need to start picking up wins and picking up points. And the gaps now between, you're looking at the bottom end of the table going up, teams are picking up points, and everyone I think below us pretty much picked up points at the weekend. So everyone's kind of coming back and reaching up further. So yeah, really, really disappointed. But there's things that we have to work on, and I'm sure that they will be worked on this week in order to go into the weekend and have a positive performance against Arsenal. Probably not looking to go in there and go, yeah, we're definitely going to be comfortable and win this game, but I think the performances have to start. We had a really good performance against London City, lost the game. So, we have to find that little bit of consistency in our performances, and also consistency throughout the whole 90 plus minutes. It's not just the moments where we score the goal and we're playing well and we go, oh, this is great, that we forget about everything else. So yeah, that comes with experience, that comes with more consistency. But yeah, it was disappointing, that's for sure.
Yeah, like you say, Brighton facing Arsenal next, so can't afford to make really any mistakes. Will you be back for that game, Fran? Asking on behalf of the Brighton fans.
I'm trying my best. I've had some really good pitch sessions now and I'm back kind of just training. So I'm hoping to kind of get back involved with the team this week and hopefully be available for the game on the weekend. But you never know how the week goes when you're doing rehab. You don't know how your body reacts and how it does things. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm definitely hoping to be back for that one and hopefully be around the team. And regardless, obviously, I'll be there and make sure that I'm there supporting the girls and helping them with everything they need. But it's going to be a tough game. Really, really tough game. Arsenal obviously having a lot of confidence off the back of the last couple of fixtures that they've had, the wins that they've had. So yeah, it's gonna be tough, but we also know that we can be strong at our home ground, and we know that the fans will be there supporting us. So that will be really, really important for that game. But yeah, it'll be tough, but hopefully, we can put in a good performance and hopefully, nick a couple of points or, get a win maybe.
Fingers crossed. Well, when you're back to it, myself and Beth need to get to a Brighton game. Or when are you two playing each other? When have we worked that out?
Last game of the season.
Game of the season, yeah.
The added time derby.
get
There you
on
go.
one.
I've got to be there to cheer you both on. I'll do it. I'll make sure it happens. Okay, a few more games to discuss. Liverpool versus Aston Villa, which finished 4-1. What do we make of the goals in this game?
We said Liverpool weren't going to stay down the bottom for long, and Lord, did their Christmas window do them some justice, because they are showing up in style. And I think, 4 different goal scorers? You've got Grace Fish scoring, Mia Enderby again scoring another goal, Martha Thomas getting a goal, their new striker getting a goal. Like, it's things are starting to click for them now, and I think we said time and time again they weren't a bad team and they're not a bottom table team. They just weren't getting the luck on their side in terms of the final element of the finishing, but the performances were there, and now they're kind of getting both to finally marry up together and get the win. I think for them, they must be flying with confidence at the minute. Obviously, I know they wanting to improve on their results, but actually get more goal scorers involved. So yesterday would have been an amazing day for them. We know the threats that they pose. They've added so much to their attacking qualities now. I can imagine Gareth Taylor is finally starting to not sweat so much, because I think he was under fire a lot. And I know there's a lot of talk about how much money they spent on getting him in and not bringing many players in with the Olivia Smith money. So it's kind of like, okay, how long are the club willing to back him? Because they were sitting at the bottom for quite some time, and fair play to Liverpool, like they stuck it out with him. They didn't try and jump ship too early. They kind of appreciate there's a change in turnover of personnel and managerial tactics. So they probably knew they had to be patient, but how long do you give it before you can risk being relegated? But yeah, they've definitely shown why they're not going to. I don't think they'll be anywhere near that relegation in a couple more games' time, because the style of football they've always played this year has been good football, and they're starting to find their form in front of goal and getting the results that they need.
Yeah, definitely feels like a new level unlocked for Liverpool. That fresh energy, new signings doing their thing. They're pulling away from the bottom now. Leicester, though, are currently bottom of the table. They took on Man United, finishing 2-0 to United. There were a couple of very bold challenges from Man United. Could have seen some fouls and cards given, maybe even a penalty at one point. I think Leicester are going to feel very hard done by. What was your reading on this? Not to get you fired up again, Fran, about
I was going to
refs,
say,
but-
you're going to set her off again about that. You stop
Directed
giving her the
towards
ref
me.
ones.
Our negative energy is coming towards me. I'm getting a decision ever again, by the way, in the WSL. If they listen to this podcast, they're going to look at me and be like, right, yellow card, get off. Obviously, Leicester went into the game thinking, let's just try and get something from the game. When you play against, the likes of Manchester United, you kind of going, what can we do to disrupt them? What can we do to make it difficult? And I think obviously conceding the first goal in the mannerism that they did, yes, the goalkeeper obviously gets put off by Schuller jumping in front of her. Like, I think them crosses, you never quite know as a goalkeeper, if the striker gets a touch on it and you dive, you look a bit silly for diving for the ball in terms of, but if you don't, then you're kind of stuck in that no man's land a little bit in terms of whether you should go. So, that goal goes in. And the penalty one for me, it's really interesting, because I think I always try and look at it like, what is the player trying to achieve? Is the player trying to win the ball? If the answer is no, then it's a foul. And I don't think Sandberg in that moment of the game, yes, okay, you can say, yeah, it's shoulder, it's a barge or whatever, but she knows that the ball has gone away. She's actively gone in, and people go shoulder barge. It's not a shoulder barge. She goes in with her hip. She goes in with a motion where she's trying to wrap her leg around her. And I think if it's outside of the box, if it's in the middle of the pitch and a number 6 has spun a player and they get knocked, you're probably given a foul. And I know that there's a higher threshold in terms of when you're in the box or whatever, but I just think in their moments as a Leicester player and as a Leicester fan base, you're restricting Man United to a 1-goal lead. You're hoping that these decisions are given for you because you're working so hard. You're looking for that moment of, okay, we've got ourselves in a position. Now we need to get given that decision. I do think it's either the ref gives it or the ref doesn't give it, or a different ref will give it on a different day. It is one of them kind of ones where it's not like, she hasn't gone in studs up and, looked to really hurt. It's clever. It's really, really clever from Sandberg, but I do think it's on that borderline threshold of probably should be a penalty. And then obviously, goes up the other end and square turnover from Leicester. Turland, I thought she'd messed it up a little bit. I felt that she should have maybe passed it a little bit earlier, but then she does get the finish, and you're not talking about the fact that, she took, the probably not the correct decision in the moment, but she scored the goal. So, that decision could have really changed the way that Leicester approached probably the last however many minutes of the game, in terms of let's just see this game out 1-1, stay solid, stay composed. Obviously, they'd have to score the penalty, but yeah, I think it's a difficult one because as a team, you need these decisions. You need these decisions to be able to compete with a top 4 team. You need these decisions to be on your side. And yeah, I as a player, if that happened to me in the box, I would want a penalty. If I felt that, but I think everyone knows that about me anyway. I probably would have been screaming and complaining to the refs anyway. But yeah, it was a difficult one. But I think on another day, maybe they get given the penalty.
No, I totally agree. Some amazing saves from Clark, I thought, in that game to keep Leicester in it. The scoreline could have been much higher. But yeah, Leicester sitting at the bottom of the table with 9 points. Higher up the table, though, Man United still second with 31, but they've still got to play Man City and Chelsea. So it could mean these Champions League places are decided right at the end of the season. That's what you want, isn't it? Yeah, you want it to be box office. What are your memories, guys, of titles coming right down to the wire?
There was a few times, I think, to be honest, where it could have been decided on the day. I think even
the spring series.
Yeah, I think we literally won it. I remember we won it on my birthday on the day. Yeah, away at Birmingham. Yeah, there's been a few close ones. But I think that's what makes football exciting. You don't want it to literally be like done and dusted. I remember there was times, I want to say it might have been maybe my last year at Chelsea, when depending on the result, I feel like we were playing Man United and the trophy was kind of in the middle of the country getting driven halfway up, depending if it was going up to City or coming back down if it was coming to Chelsea. And it was like, you just didn't know which way it was going to go because of the results on the day. And it's just exciting for fans. And I think it takes away that complacency of we've already won it, we can do what we want. Like, you want to know that you're giving everything to the last possible second of the game of the season. And it just makes it a lot more exciting than when it's already done and dusted. And I think, like you say, City are still sitting in a comfortable position now, but if, like Fran says, if they get the odd bad result, it could maybe turn them a little bit. We've spoken about how the top teams can afford to lose points in a way against each other, but not mid or lower teams. Like Arsenal, we've seen, is where they've fallen off, is that they've dropped points against teams that are lower than them. So that's kind of put them in a shifty position. You've obviously then got teams at the bottom fighting out to not be in that relegation spot. But you've got teams like Leicester, unfortunately Aston Villa, London City Lionesses, who were all in a strong position before Christmas, who have now completely sunk downward, whilst West Ham, Liverpool, and even Everton have started to pick up points. So the amount of shift that's going on, I think obviously Brighton kind of dipping a little bit. Like, there's so much shifting in and around the mid to bottom, sorry Fran, bottom bit of the table. But it's just so exciting for any fan. It depends which fan you are, but it's exciting because the table can shift at any point, whether that's top, middle or bottom, because one week you expect teams to be picking up these points. Next minute, they don't pick up the point. Yet the team below them does pick up the points they were expected to lose. They jump above you and you're thinking, oh crap, like, we're actually getting in a worse position than we wanted to be. So I don't think there's many teams that can sit there in and around that bottom thinking, this couldn't be us. Like, a few teams could very well be in that category of relegation, depending on how well City now turn around their loss on the weekend. that could change things in terms of second and third place for Champions League. And it's just exciting for everyone.
Oh, it's juicy. I love it. I love football. Imagine not loving football. Last game to discuss is London City Lionesses, who were at home against Everton. And you know what? Another goalie we need to big up on today's pod is Brosnan, Everton's keeper, who got player of the match. I mean, shows how much pressure they were under, obviously, but I thought she was brilliant.
Yeah, she was. When you play in the league, every team knows that Courtney Brosnan is one of the top goalkeepers in the league. And she's been it for many years. It's not something that's new. She's always been that solid piece of Everton's performances in the way that they play. Her character as well, you know, her leadership. She's constantly communicating. She comes and claims things from corners. She kind of brings them that balance of calmness, but also that kind of, no, come on. Like, we need to be better. This needs to be better. The accountability piece in terms of how she leads. And yeah, I thought the saves that she made in the game definitely was one of the reasons why Everton went and won the game. I think London City looked like they had the better of the chances. They looked like they probably... It's hard because I think as a player, I don't really like the whole deserve to win, because if you deserve to win, you win, because you take your chances when you get them. But I mean, it looked like they had the better of the chances, and she was obviously that solid brick wall. But I also think that the London City goalkeeper pulled off some really, really good saves as well throughout the game. And I actually think that game was probably a tale of the goalkeepers rather than anything else. And, you know, it was a fantastic finish for Everton to go 1-0 up. I think it was a really good play from Mamiki. I think, you know, she's driving towards goal. She easily could have shot herself, but she slides through her teammate and makes a really, really good decision. So I think that was a really good finish. But yeah, I think Courtney Brosnan, in terms of the saves that she made, was definitely the reason why Everton left that game with 3 points and deserved the player of the match for sure. But she's always been that constant for them, always that constant performer. She always gives you a solid performance. I mean, maybe a couple of mistakes here and there, but that's, you know, that happens. That happens for outfield players. It happens for many goalkeepers. But she's the one that I think has just always been, you know, if you want someone to constantly give you a 7 or 8 out of 10, she is that player. And sometimes she'll give you a 10 out of 10.
Solid player, that's for sure. And a huge win for Everton. The way they were like celebrating together at the end, and I don't know, their body language looked different. Their old manager, Brian Sorensen, obviously got the sack during the week. Do we think that's a sign that the mood in the team is much better, or am I just being a football fan and reading too much into things?
I think it's mad when you look at it, because it took them so long to finally get their first win at Goodison Park, their home win, and then they sacked their manager after that win. There was multiple opportunities where you're thinking, okay, he could be going, he's kind of really feeling it a bit. I think there was even moments last year where we thought he might have gone. The club stuck it out with him, kept him on. And yeah, to get that first win at home was huge for them. To then sack your manager, but then I guess they've just been on this like high of confidence of winning finally in a home game. You lose your manager, and I'm not in that dressing room. I don't know if the girls kindly felt like the shackles were off a little bit with that in terms of their performance with how they played. It's kind of giving that, where they felt a bit more free and that they could be themselves and play like without that pressure, and reeling from the confidence from the game before of getting their win. I think the celebrations meant everything to them. They knew that they needed those points. They know they needed to start and climb back up that table, especially against a team that's sitting in and around a similar position to them. Like we've mentioned, obviously it was a tale of the both goalkeepers having worldies, but ultimately Everton are the ones that came out on top by putting away the chance that they needed to do. And I think you've got a feel for teams when it's really hard, because as players, we know what goes on in our own environments. Like to the outside world, to the media, things can be portrayed a certain type of way, but in-house, you know exactly what's going on, and no one else knows. Not fans, no one, unless things get leaked, obviously. But it's very telling when a manager gets sacked and you see a performance like what Everton gave, that as best way to say it is that the shackles got released a little bit and they feel like they could play with a bit more freedom. It was a bit more like, okay, or it might have even been, okay, we'll play and make sure that we start to win this because we don't agree with it. I don't think that's the case personally. I think that it was more a case of, okay, that chapter of Everton's story is now ended. Let's start rewriting our own history and let's start and get some points back in this table. And that's what they did. And I think, unfortunately for London City, they are in a position where they've changed manager mid-season. They're still adapting to new changes from him. I would be asking more from London City. You think of the calibre of players they've got and the personnel. I'm thinking, is their top goal scorer like Freya Godfrey? Where's your strikers' goals? Where's Aslani's goals? Like, there's some big names in that squad that aren't producing any assists or goals. Like, they're almost reliant on the youth to be getting the goals in. And you've got Nikita Paris in there, known for goal scoring. Like, where are these goals coming from? So I think there's definitely question marks on that side. But without the rant, fair play to Everton. And it was a shock that the manager got sacked after the win, but ultimately I don't think it's done them any harm either.
What would this pod be without a rant or two? We love it. That is it for this week's pod. Thank you, Fran. Thank you, Beth, for being as brilliant as ever. And to everyone watching and listening at home, we will see you next week.